Hey, how's it going? It's your boy, your friendly neighborhood challenger coach, Moriarty. I was here to bring you a video where we will go over some of the best mid laners to carry solo queue games with to give you the greatest chance to 1v9. If this solo carry concept sounds a bit familiar, that would be because we also did one for the jungle, so feel free to check out that video as well. And if for some reason you main jungle instead of mid lane, of course. In terms of the video, I'm also going to rank these champions in order of how strong I think they are for 1v9ing, but it'll be a pretty loose ranking, so feel free to give your opinions in the comment section below on how you would have done it. First up, we've got SYLAS. He's changed a lot since his first creation, and his current iteration is one of the best ones in terms of the highest burst potential and his healing potential. Thanks to his Conqueror setup in WMAX, once SYLAS hits level 13, he just runs in the middle of the enemy team in a massive fight, dealing huge amounts of AoE damage and healing far too much to die. It's very similar to Aatrox, where if the enemy team just doesn't have the CC to burst you down before your next W, you're just going to live. And of course, the other issue is he does have a decent amount of mobility. Unlike Aatrox though, because he's got his ultimate and he can steal other people's ultimate, it gives him the big brain ability to choose from, potentially having to steal a Malphite ultimate or a useless one like Akali and then proceed to one-shot an entire team using that ultimate better than the original champion themselves, which is why SYLAS is so good for 1v9ing. He's not gonna die in a team fight, he's gonna have the mobility to chase people down and burst them down, and he has the ability to steal ultimates for any situation he needs. And next up, we've got Yasuo, who some people might scoff at for making it on this list as a 1v9 champion, but I didn't actually say which team they're gonna 1v9 for. When he's got his 010 power spike or his 10-0 power spike, either way, he's carrying some team, right? But seriously, no matter how much you might hate this champion or having him on your team, he is truly able to carry games on his own. It's very similar to how Vayne works in a sense. Once you reach 2+ items on Yasuo, he tends to deal so much consistent damage that being good at him mechanically isn't that important anyway, which is why, funny enough, he has a really high win rate in Brawn. Now, ignoring his insane DPS potential, which is one of the best in the game, and then ignoring his mobility, which is one of the best of the game, and then ignoring the fact that he has solid AoE disruption for team fights, which is arguably one of the best in the game too because of how consistent it comes out, he has one of the single best utility spells in the game, and that's Wind Wall. This ability on its own is so strong at enabling outplay potential and carrying fights on his own that it could have been made an ultimate for a support champion and people still would have complained that it's overpowered. Just think about it, alright? Windwall is just that extra ability that Yasuo really didn't need to carry games as hard as he does. The girl who doesn't really stop yelling about unleashing all of her power, SYNDRA, is up next. You likely noticed her high priority in competitive play due to her ability to be flex picked, but more importantly, it's how stupidly strong her laning phase is. Personally, when I'm in solo queue, I actually ban her because I'm tired of just automatically losing the laning phase to her because it's just SYNDRA. It's kind of like playing against ranged Renekton. She always has lane priority, she's always got kill pressure in almost every single matchup, and it allows her to easily get solo kills or roam at will during the early game, which is really good for carrying. Though she doesn't have massive DPS like other carry champions on this list, she will easily carry fights due to her ability to just kind of click on someone and build them up for a free kill, and then after that she hits Scatter of the Weak and hits an entire team with a stun. I'd say that's pretty game changing. Her way of carrying games isn't the traditional way, but I don't think any mid laner can really argue against her ability to solo impact and win games on her own. LeBlanc, however you want to pronounce it, has been one of the go-to for many famous mid laners like Faker, Perks, Rookie, or Chovy, and for good reason, because when your team isn't performing in competitive play or in solo queue and you need to do everything yourself, I mean you need to juke skill shots, I mean you need to win the laning phase, get picks on your own, she's been the go-to for those players and she's one of the best at doing that kind of thing. Not only is she able to snowball solo during the laning phase, roam to pick up kills during the early game, pick off people in skirmishes, and if your jungler does happen to show up to your lane, it's pretty much a free kill if chain lands, which gives her really scary threat during the early game. But the main reason these pro players like her so much, even in solo kill, is her outplay potential with distortion. You're just gonna break people's ankles, followed by using her burst to pick people off on your own. As long as your mechanics are on point on this champion, she has enough mobility and range to pick people off on her own from a distance, giving her a lot of safe options to do things on her own without having to actually, ram your face into the enemy team and hope you get a kill without dying. We all knew that this next champion would show up on this list, and though she isn't gonna get a pentakill in a team fight, she is gonna one-shot you from a full screen away, and that's Zoe. Sure, she's got a lot of random stuff in her kit that could cause you to lose a laning phase or two, the whole thing where she could potentially get a redemption at level 3, and then, that's pretty much a one laning phase. Totally balanced, by the way, nothing wrong with that. But none of that is what caused her to actually 1v9 a game after that. What it really comes down to for Zoe is her ability to get picks is not only one of the best in the game, as, one rotation or one bubble means means instant death, but it's also done from a really safe distance. Think about it like this, it's kind of like if Shaquille O'Neal was given infinite free throws on a foul, until he gets 2 of course. Sure, it might take half an hour or an hour, but eventually he's gonna hit the shot. It's kind of the same thing for Zoe. Eventually she's gonna land a bubble, eventually she's gonna one-shot someone, and then that kill is gonna lead into a Baron, and then she has insane agency to carry games from that. All it takes is one bubble for one kill, and she can try as many times as she wants from a safe distance. Possibly more annoying than Zoe, at least to some people, the next champion is going to be Fizz. If Fizz does happen to get fed, which, is very likely because it's Fizz, because of how absurd his E is on an assassin champion, he kind of has to choose to dive in and die, otherwise he can't really be stopped, meaning he can easily continue to snowball and clean up fights pretty risk-free. So not only is he incredibly hard to kill, but his damage output is pretty crazy in the late game. He can kill a carry in one combo even without his ultimate, and if his ulti lands, it's 100% even through something like Ma if you're unfortunate enough to have actually decided to play AD carry versus Fizz. His only real counter is Zhonya's Hourglass, but let's be honest, who doesn't get countered by that item? But even if he manages Zhonya's ultimate, it doesn't really matter because the rest of his kit is super reliable since his Q is targeted and E is pretty easy to land. You'll likely just die right after you come out of it anyways. There is a reason why it's so common for Fizz players to have 60 CS at 30 minutes on average. It's because they know he has the damage to carry anyways. They don't need to farm, they just farm champions. Edgelord Vladimir is next, and now I'm thinking about it as I'm going through this list, I'm starting to realize if I just called this most annoying mid laners or like most hated mid laners, this list likely wouldn't change much. Anyways, Vladimir, though not traditionally considered a mid laner, is currently played mostly in mid lane and is performing better in this role as he's got a lot of decent matchups. Why, you might ask? Well, that's because mid lane is mostly assassin champions who try and one-shot people. Vlad is a champion that every single 20 seconds or so in the early game can just say no to death today and just use his pool, and then in those 20 seconds, if you try and kill him again, he just sustains the poke damage through Q. But Adam, all of this is nice and all, but being unkillable doesn't make you a 1v9 carry champion. That just makes you a tank, man. Well, you're right about that, but what makes him a 1v9 carry champion is his team fighting, which when he's got flash up allows him to use his absurd AoE damage to one-shot an entire team while not being targetable or killable. Once you hit that 3-item mark on Vladimir in general and you have flash up, it's pretty much over for the enemy team. They have no hope of winning a fight against you. Speaking of unkillable and untargetable, we got Akali on this list as well, and it might seem a little strange to put her ahead of Vladimir, but it's mostly due to her mobility difference, and it's way easier to snowball on her in solo queue compared to a Vlad. The other reason it might seem strange is a couple months ago she was so bad due to being over nerfed that she wasn't even good enough to carry her mouse across her mouse pad to actually hit that X button and dodge, because it was such a massive mistake for anyone to attempt picking her in her 42% win rate. Now though, after some nice buffs to her damage and her RCD, she's back to being that annoying assassin champion who has infinitely more tools to outplay her opponents than they do her. The reason she's so good at carrying games on her own is, at the end of the day, when going up against Akali, it's not about you doing anything, it's about her messing up, because she's got way too many dashes. She's got 3 or 4 depending on how you count her E, and then she also has amazing sustain damage. She's got amazing health sustain because of Gunblade and Conqueror, and then she's still able to one-shot people with her ultimate. She might be pretty squishy, but then her Shroud literally covers that weakness, giving her agency any game to make outplays 1v1, 1v2, 1v3, doesn't really matter. You just pray her internet lags mid-fight, because that's the only chance you have of actually outplaying an Akali. You're gonna notice a lot of mechanical assassins on this list, as it lets you make outplays on opponents to snowball and get picks on their own, picking up some of that free LP. This champ isn't one of those, although she is an assassin, and that's Diana. I'm going to rank her carry potential on this list higher than some of the other assassin champions you see in competitive play more often because of a couple of reasons, and the first is her reliability in solo queue. Her combo always lands. Q might as well be targeted, and the rest of her kit, you can't really mess it up either. But even if you do manage to miss Q somehow, it doesn't really matter, because 1, she's tanky due to her shield, and 2, she has the healing from Conqueror while also having some absurdly strong consistent DPS. This means compared to most assassin champions, she can mess up and still have ballback plans, which includes on a macro level, because she has one of the fastest split pushing abilities in the game. I actually think she might be in the top 3 champions to take towers. The other thing compared to most assassins that she has to help her 1v9 is her ultimate. It lets her engage and wipe an entire team fight if she hits a lot of people on her own, while other assassins can kind of only dream of doing such a thing while they just kind of wait in the backline and hope their team actually engages for them. At third place, we've got the strongest late game control mage for solo queue, we got Cassio. Control mages normally don't rank highly in terms of 1v9 potential in solo queue because they're too immobile and can just kind of die if not protected, but Cassio is the exception in this case. The reason for this is that she naturally builds pretty tanky with things like Seraph's shield, Rally's HP, Leandri's HP, and while doing that, she's still got the DPS to wipe an entire team on her own in the late game. 1 Q and then maybe 2 to 3 Twin Fangs maximum is enough to kill a carry, and those abilities barely have a cooldown. With the combination of utility from Miasma, Q movement speed, Conqueror healing, Ravenous Hunter healing, and even her ult CC, she has literally the ability to 1v2 or 1v3 after she gets a tier in the early game because she does have mana issues. But it's extremely scary to gank a Cassio, and because of Miasma, it's just so broken with how wide an area it can cover and the fact that she can place it on top of herself now. There aren't a lot of control mages like her who are self-sufficient in a fight, able to peel and kite on her own while still having the DPS to kill every single champion on the enemy team. Now that's a carry mid laner if I've ever seen one. For these next two, I had a tough time ranking these, so I kind of consider them both pretty equal in terms of 1v9ing and solo queue, but since this champion relies a bit too much on scaling, I ranked him at number 2, and that's Kassadin. In my previous ranking video, ranking all of the late game carries in League of Legends, Kassadin ended up as the single best late game champion in solo queue in Season 10 with some absurd late game stats to back it up, which is, for that very reason why he's appearing very highly on this list. Yeah, if he's showing up this highly on 2 different lists, I wonder if he's doing his job a little bit too well or something, but who knows. Kassadin is likely the only champion in the game where people will FF after seeing you get close to level 16 or after hitting level 16 and seeing you rift for the first time. As a Kassadin player myself, I can tell you this actually happens because in my younger days when I was a little bit more cocky, I used to type in alt chat, hey, I've hit level 16, you can FF, and people actually would. That's how ridiculous he is at that point in the game. He doesn't need anyone to do anything on his team. You hit level 16, you rift around, you kill everyone on your own. It's just once you get a lead on that champion due to his ult CD getting way too low while providing easy to land AoE damage and being tanky, he simply put a one-man army and 4 stacks of rift into R flash has no counterplay. You're just gonna one-shot the enemy backline, making him one of the best carry champions in any role and a story. At number 1, in past seasons, Katarina was considered mostly a low elo stomper, but I'm gonna rank her this highly because her 1v9 potential in this season is ridiculous. Currently holding a 54% win rate and 10% pick rate, even in Diamond Plus, is beyond impressive, and those stats are pretty much across every single bracket, and it's thanks to her synergy with Conqueror and Gunblade. When you've got Conqueror being the strongest keystone in the game currently in terms of raw power on a champion, who is also able to build Gunblade, who has the strongest win rate if bought as a first item, if you ignore outliers like Medjay's of course, is a tough combo to beat in just in terms of itemization. This allows a champion like Katarina, who has good burst damage and mobility, to clean up skirmishes and get picks by herself while also being too tanky to really deal with in terms of lifesteal. She is just the queen of abusing disorganized play in solo queue, and it only takes one person to mess up in a skirmisher and teamfight for her to get a reset, allowing her to kill an entire team on her own, which is why she has one of the highest pentakill rates out of any champion in the game. I think she's in the top 5 for sure. If being that good at scoring pentakills doesn't qualify you as being a 1v9 champion, I don't know what really does anymore. Now I know Katarina mains might find this a bit of a controversial placement with the classic "but Adam, her laning sucks" argument, but my response to that is, okay, if that's true, she's even more broken because she's still winning this much and carrying this hard from a deficit because her Gunblade power spike is just that strong. So if you're looking for a champion that was specifically designed and engineered to abuse every single thing that's broken in Season 10 and it was designed to beat solo queue because she takes advantage of people's mistakes and is super good at killing people in skirmishes, then yeah, Katarina's your pick. With the list complete, I'd like to add in some honorable mentions, which is pretty normal in this kind of video for me. So first up, we've got late game mages. We got things like Azir, Victor, Veigar. They're able to 1v9 carry games in the teamfight phase. It's just that, they don't really do anything in the early game and teamfights don't always happen and they lack mobility besides Azir, but it just makes them pretty unreliable carries in solo queue. Compared to Cassio, because again, she's the exception as she has a stronger laning phase and better utility versus mobile champions, hence her win rate is higher in solo queue. Then we also have the roaming assassin category. You got things like Talon, Zed, Kiana, Echo. These champions get fed off of span roaming very similar to Katarina, or getting solo kills in lane very similar to Katarina, but they don't really have that AoE teamfight reset potential to kill a whole team by themselves. They can still roam and get super fed and get picks on their own very similar to LeBlanc, but I felt like if I mentioned these champions who kind of fit this kind of archetype, it would fill up the entire list, and I didn't really want that. So instead I chose to include the champions that are best at filling this archetype in solo queue and added them to the list instead. That's it folks, so thank you everyone for watching. I'm really thankful for everyone who watched these videos and leaves a comment, as I really do read all of them for about a week to get feedback, because it's still kind of a strange thing for me to do this kind of content. I do find it really fun, so hopefully I've gotten a lot better since I first started, but I'm hoping you continue to support me and this channel by checking out our other YouTube content as well as our content at Mobalytics.gg. As always, I'm Moriarty, and may the new and old solo queue gods be with you.